Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. If you want to help out the channel, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. And our first story of the day is by Katie Pow Pow. Threaten my job when I'm already quitting? Have fun with no workers. I work at a well-known huge grocery store in the bakery/deli. I've been in the general area now for 3 years, been in management, and recently stepped down this year to focus on college. In early July, I turned in my letter of resignation, letting them know that August 13th would be my last day. It's now about mid-July and we've got an audit going on. Basically, everything has to be perfect. They ask you questions about your job, everything has to be on code, etc. Up to this point, we've been having an issue with staffing because instead of hiring employees full-time, they hire everyone part-time. I'm the only full-time employee in my department. Because of this, there's never enough people to work, and they'll schedule 4 people working 3 or 4 hour shifts one night, and then the next, one person will be closing alone the entire night, usually me. I'm fine with that. I enjoy working alone, but this night was extra stressful with all the extra work I had to do because of the audit. I was all alone the night in question, and working a shorter shift than usual. We tend to close the deli around 8 p.m. and have 2 hours to clean up. I was scheduled till 8:30 p.m. and spoke to my managers about it and got permission to close at 5 so I could take a lunch break and have 2 hours to close up. My managers also said that I would be sent someone around 7:30 p.m. to help me close on time. Around 7 p.m., a woman comes up to the meat slicers asking for some sliced meat. I tell her I'm sorry, but we're closed for the night. She chews me out for a moment, complains that she comes here every other night and we're always open, and I explain to her that we're low on staffing and I've already cleaned the slicers for the night, and she leaves. About 5 to 10 minutes later, my assistant manager walks up and asks me what the problem was. She had gone to management and demanded we slice her the meat. I explained the situation, and his response was to just berate me for closing the deli down early and told me to help her and just clean it again. Just stop being difficult is what he said. After slicing her some meat, we ended up being out of a different kind and she walked out of the store leaving everything behind, meaning I had created more cleaning for nothing. I was upset. I took a walk to cool down and went to find my buddy who was supposed to come over at 7:30 p.m. and ask when he was coming over. When I found him, he told me he wouldn't be able to come over because the assistant manager had come over and given him a long list of stuff to do for the rest of the night. That upset me even more. I found the assistant manager and was like, dude, what the freak? And reiterated that I was leaving at 8:30 p.m. and needed assistance. And he told me to once again stop being difficult and to just get it all done. I told him there was no way I was getting it done in time and said that my schedule says I leave at 8:30, so I'm leaving at 8:30, regardless of how much is left to do. I guess he hadn't got the memo that I was quitting soon, and so, in response, he tells me that if I can't do my job well enough, then maybe I should start looking for another job. That was my breaking point. After 3 years of working with bad management and their backward ways, I decided I didn't need to do it anymore. I told him okay, found some of my favorite coworkers and told them goodbye, and it was nice working with them, and walked out. Haven't gone back since. They failed their audit. 6 other employees in my general area quit shortly after due to most of them traveling for college. The rest are planning on leaving as well. As far as I know, the entire area is messed up. Hope the manager got his butt chewed out, but I doubt it. I've reported some of the managers there for serious issues, telling me they were too busy to help women whose lives were being threatened in store, retaliation, threatening to fire people if they didn't work overtime, causing someone to lose Medicare and ration their insulin and be hospitalized for a few weeks, and they never went anywhere. Screw that place. If you worked in a place where a manager was so bad, would you try to complain higher and higher up the chain everywhere you could until you've basically exhausted every resource trying to report these people? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by Aerosol. I'm not paid to think. Okay. Whilst working in a job that I'd been doing for 15 years, the company brought in a freshly manufactured degree-waving manager. Any problems within the production area, I was always called in to troubleshoot for them and get things moving again. Mr. Freak Wittery, the new manager, asked me what I was doing one day, and I told him that I was just thinking how to resolve a recurring issue in production. His response was, "We don't pay you to think, get back to your own job." Okay, Mr. Freak Wittery, on my way. Cue malicious compliance. 2 hours later, I get a call from the production supervisor asking for help as line 6 was down again. Sorry, Steve, call the Mr. Freak Wittery. He's in charge and apparently I'm not paid to think. Tanoy goes calling me to the office. Mr. Freak-wittery is a rare shade of red with anger, informs me that I need to go sort out the issue in production. Sorry, sir, I can't do that as I don't get paid to think, and left his office, smiling all the way back to my department. Line in production is shut down for 2 whole shifts, with people standing around scratching their heads. Managing director comes to visit the next day and wants to know why the line's off. Maintenance guy tells him he can't understand why it won't work properly. Managing director says, "Has Tom had a look for you?" Maintenance guy says, "Tom won't come over because apparently he's not paid to think." Managing director says, "Who the heck said that to him?" Maintenance guy tells him that Mr. Freak-wittery told him that when he had just helped us out the other day. Managing director calls Mr. Freak-wittery to the line and tells him that I'd been with the company since he founded it, and I know more about this production facility than the people who designed it. And what the freak are you doing telling long-term staff that they're not paid to think? Managing director calls me to ask if I can help out as a favor to him. I come across and spent 5 minutes realigning a couple of sensors, and the line was restarted. Managing director takes me to lunch and offers me an extra $150 a week and tells me that the only person I answer to in the future is him and him only. To this day, that manager still scowls whenever I see him around. Would there ever be a more I am impervious feeling than in that moment where the top dog comes in and just chews this guy out for telling you what to do? I'd be walking around that Mr. Freak-wittery with my shoulders up in the air with a nice strut going on. Give him a little smile and a nod. Don't worry, Mr. Freak-wittery, I'll go fix this production issue. Our next story is by Spooky Void Cat. This malicious compliance might sink his career. I work in a restaurant, and on this particular day, I was on bar with a coworker. There had been basically no customers for a couple of hours, and we had already stocked up and cleaned everything we could reach, so we were just hanging out at that point. Enter Todd. He'd recently been promoted from waitstaff to team leader and had transformed from a genuinely cool and chill guy to an arrogant hardbutt practically overnight. He was always on everyone's butts to work harder and could never admit he was ever wrong about anything. He comes in and is immediately on the offensive, which is fair enough as we were just kinda stood around drinking tea at that point. He's listing off all the jobs we should be doing, and in turn we confirm that we've already done each and every one of them. This seems to only piss him off more, and he starts listing more and more obscure jobs in an attempt to catch us out. He points to the large metal utility sink under the bar and asks if we've cleaned that. Yes, of course we have. He actually gets his phone out and uses the flashlight to peer down the half-inch gap between the sink and the wall. "Oh no you haven't," he exclaims, the smugness in his voice so thick you could spread it on toast. "You need to pull this out and clean behind it. It has to be done properly." "Pull it out?" I ask. "Yes, God, it's not hard to understand, is it?" he huffs. Now, anyone who's worked in a bar or kitchen probably knows what one of these looks like. But for anyone who doesn't, you could conceivably be forgiven for thinking it was just a lightweight metal table. Except for the fact that, you know, it has a built-in sink on one end of it. But hey, boss knows best, right? I give my coworker a look, we both shrug, grab an end each, and heave as hard as we can. There was a wonderful combination of noises, the squealing of metal against the floor, a sudden crack, and what I can only describe as a comical boink as a pipe broke off and clattered onto the ground. I'm not any sort of plumber, so I can't give details about what broke, but we weren't able to use that sink for several days, and the metal legs left impressive gouges in the linoleum floor. Of course, we got yelled at even though we did as we were told, but Todd never quite lived it down and ultimately didn't last long as team leader. You know, as a team leader, you would just imagine that they would know what all the equipment is and how it functions. If they were working at a place long enough to go from waitstaff to team leader, you feel like they would have some level of experience with just about every area in the place, right? I think it's a little bit of a jerk move to not say, you know, hey, we can't actually pull this out of there, it's a sink, but it is maliciously compliant and you can't argue with that. Our next story is by This Is a Hard One. Okay, I quit. When COVID first started, everyone in my office was sent home but me. No one was laid off, they were all on administrative leave. After asking why I wasn't sent home with everyone else, I was informed that someone has to stay in case anyone comes to the building or called. So for 3 months, it was just me and security every day. Finally, they let me go home on admin leave, only to require all caseworkers and management to telework, and my team was on a hybrid schedule, 1 week in the office, 1 week at home. I was told that as team supervisor, I had to be in the office at all times. Fast forward to this year, I started having daycare issues which caused me to have to take time off because I wasn't allowed to telework. I was reamed by management about not being dedicated to the family and not having backup childcare during a pandemic. I ended up applying to HR for an accommodation to telework and it was granted. I've been successfully teleworking for 3 months. I've been reassigned to a new manager who complained that I don't work from the office. He has had my accommodation revoked and expressed that if I can't give my all to the company, then I'm not the right fit for his family. He will be receiving my resignation in the morning. I'm not choosing my job over my children. Besides, calling the company a family is sending all kinds of red flags. Basically echoing what OP said at the very end of the story, from everything I've ever heard, if a company says, "We're not employees, we're a family," or saying, "Oh, this is a family together," or "This is a family environment," that right there is the biggest red flag, and it's just symptomatic of them basically saying, "We're expecting you to give us way more than what we're paying you for." This next story is by Full On Double Rainbow. I was a victim of malicious compliance. So my son, 11, came home hot and bothered yesterday, literally and figuratively. He was wearing a hoodie and jeans in 30 Celsius plus weather and was sweating and cranky. I told him to go change his clothes into something cooler, but he didn't want to. I told him, just go put on a tank top. He disappeared and a few minutes later reappeared maliciously compliant. He had put on a tank top, my tank top, just my tank top, with no pants. I just looked at him and he was so proud of himself, I couldn't help but think of the sub. I congratulated him on his malicious compliance and we both had a good laugh. All I know is if your kid is 11 and already pulling stunts like this, you're probably going to have your hands full, but you also can be rest assured that you got a smart one. Our next story is by Heck Octopus. Bring something to the potluck. Okay. Obligatory, not my story, but a buddy of mine, and also pre-COVID. So my friend worked a soul-crushing job at a call center. Understandably, he had no interest in their team-building BS and was perfectly fine doing the work, collecting a check, and going home. One of his coworkers kept giving him crap about not participating in their potluck. He politely explained it's too much work to put in for something he's not interested in doing. Next potluck rolls around and he gets yet again more crap for not being social. Now, I had just bought a whole pumpkin and had it sitting on the counter. He asks if he can have it and explains the situation. Delighted I agree. Next potluck, he slams an entire pumpkin on the food table and walks away. The bushy coworker didn't bother him again. You want some food? Dang it, here. A pumpkin. Enjoy. And then you just leave after that. And our final story of the day is by Anovia Lekim. Do exactly as you're told and nothing else. My dad was a bus driver in the 1980s. The garage got a new supervisor. So my dad's friend was running late because of an accident that held up traffic, so he arrived at the garage and popped in to tell him because he hadn't had his statutory break. This guy went ballistic, refused his legally required break, told him he was stupid, and told him to do exactly as I say and nothing else. He told him to get himself to town and report to the bus station to start his new route. So he did. The manager at the bus station called the depot supervisor and asked why in the holy heck did he send a driver with no bus. As my dad's friend had told him, he was explicitly told to go to the station, but he never said anything about him being in a bus. That supervisor didn't last long. He was a laughingstock. Do exactly as I say. Go there now. Yes, okay, boss. Why did you send an employee without a bus? Sometimes just playing dumb is the best thing. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.